Please hold for a very important message.
Hi traders, welcome to the very first episode of the Ask Oliver Velez series. Now, I'm hoping to be able to answer your questions every single day for at least the next year so that ultimately we have a bank of 365 answers to your most valuable questions. Now listen, the questions I'm going to be selecting are going to fall into two broad categories, those that are time sensitive and those that are not time sensitive. Now let me explain those two different categories. First of all, we live in current times, and of course there are going to be questions that deal with the current market environment, the current state of affairs. Those are very important, but the answers to those questions have a time relevance. So basically, the longer we get away from that question, the less importance, the less relevance that answer has over time. Then there are going to be questions that are rather timeless. They're not time sensitive. They're going to deal with specific things that will hold value forever, so that no matter how long you revisit the answer to that question, it's going to maintain its importance. Now, both questions, or both types of questions, are very important. So I will be taking both of those questions. Now, the first question I want to start off with today is a question by a gentleman. His name is Fong. Now, Fong, I don't know where you are or where you're from, but Fong has a time-sensitive question. He wants to know, Oliver, what is your technical view about Bitcoin's price in the short term from now until the end of 2021? So please understand, this is a time-sensitive question. It deals with the market environment now. And so after the end of 2021, as we move into 2022 and 2023, the answer to this question is not going to hold as much importance as it does now, but it's still very important. So let me try to attack this from a few different angles. Number one, it's important to understand that Bitcoin operates, or has operated up until this point, off of a very repetitive 4-year cycle. That 4-year cycle is driven by a concept, or driven by a major event called its halving event. Now, what Bitcoin does is every 4 years is it cuts its inflation rate in half. So what that means is that there's a certain number of Bitcoin that's mined every single 10 minutes. Of course, there's a certain amount that's mined every single day, and a certain amount that's predetermined and mined every year. That amount does not change, except every 4 years it gets cut in half. Now, this is very special because it makes Bitcoin the only asset in the world that is actually deflationary in nature. Every asset in the world actually inflates, so it becomes greater and greater in supply. What's also very special about Bitcoin as an asset is that its cap is absolute. 21 million coins will ultimately be mined by the year 2140, I believe. But there will absolutely be no more. And so these two things, the fact that Bitcoin gets cut in half, its inflationary supply gets cut in half, its mining amount, the amount that it's mined every single year, gets cut in half, in addition to the fact that its cap is an absolute one, makes it one of the most unique assets that have ever been available to the human race. And it's coded with these two things. It's specifically designed to actually be a technology that increases in value forever. Now, when I tell people that Bitcoin is going to ultimately, in my opinion, increase in value forever, there's a great degree of disbelief regarding that. But it's very easy for me typically to remove that belief by simply pointing to the fact that inflationary assets have been going up for almost forever. As an example, the US stock market has been going up since the late 1920s, early 1930s, decade after decade after decade after decade, longer than you've been alive. In addition to that, Microsoft's been going up for 44 years. Apple's been going up for 42 years. This is the majority of their life. In fact, longer than many of the lives of the individuals watching me answer this question today. All right, Amazon's been going up for 24 years. Google's been going up for 22 years. Bitcoin's been going up for 12 years. It's a baby. but it has just begun its life as a meaningful asset on this planet. And so I believe that for decade after decade after decade after decade, just like Apple, just like Microsoft, just like Google, just like the equity markets, just like the bond markets, these markets have been going up literally all of our lives. I believe that Bitcoin has just begun and will go up for the rest of our lives. That is my belief. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. Now, that's my long-term view and take on the world's only deflationary asset that is programmed to go up in a dramatic way forever. My short-term view. What's interesting about this 4-year cycle with Bitcoin is that its most dramatic rises tend to happen in the first 2 years after its halving. So Bitcoin experienced its last halving, I believe, in May of 2020. And of course, 2020 was an amazing year for Bitcoin. It actually rose 6 to 8 times in value. That's 600 to 800% gain off of that initial halving event. But what's interesting is that the year after the halving event, not the year of the halving event, the year after the halving event, which is this year, 2021, is statistically, historically, the most bullish. So as bullish as the year of the halving is, the year after the halving is actually double and sometimes triple in terms of its level of bullishness. And I believe that we are coming into Bitcoin's most powerful period after its halving, mid-October, all the way through, in my opinion, this year, into the beginning of next year. So maybe as far as the first quarter of 2022. So from mid-October to March or so of next year, I believe Bitcoin is in store to see some of its most impressive gains. That's what I'm banking on. That's what my traders and I are banking on. That's what I'm positioned for. Now, September is historically a very bad month for Bitcoin, which makes it a wonderful opportunity to pick up Bitcoin at discounted prices before its most bullish period. Now, history doesn't always repeat itself. In fact, a lot of times it doesn't at all, but it often rhymes. And so if Bitcoin even remotely rhymes close to what it's done in its last 4-year cycles, we're in store for some phenomenal gains. So lock in. This, I have to say, this is not investment advice. Check with your own advisor. Do your own research. I'm only telling you what my personal belief is, and I'm only telling you what I'm doing with my own free available capital. I'm trying to take advantage of this my personal way. All right, Fong, I hope I've answered that question for you as well as all others that might be interested in that topic. I do want you to know that there is a convenient link to ask your questions. I'll make sure that link is attached right here on this post. All you have to do is click on that link and ask your questions. It's a very convenient way for me to review what will be answered next. And so I hope you use that link, okay? All right, continue to follow me on all of the social media networks. I'm here for you. And never forget, I am your trader for life. Until tomorrow, ciao for now. Boom!